Picture this. It's 11/8/2027 and I'm turning 30 years old. Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Taylor and today I'm going to be telling you 30 books that I want to read by the time I'm 30. This is not an original idea by any stretch of the word. I was inspired, so my mother actually told me that she's going to be doing this challenge of 50 books before she turns 50. She needs to figure out what books she wants to read, but I looked up online and I saw The Book Thing, the creator, The Book Thing, on YouTube is doing a 50 books before he turns 50, and I watched his videos now, and he said that he really prioritized like books on his physical TBR, and I was like, you're so right, sir. So I thought, I'm gonna do that. So today I'm going to be telling you about 15 of the 30 books. I'm going to be doing this in 2 parts or else it would just be way too long. So this is part 1 in no particular order, 15 books that I want to read by the time I'm 30. Put the 2 parts together, it's going to be 30 books that I want to read by the time I'm 30. I did prioritize books in my physical TBR. I did not go out and purchase any books for this challenge, even though many of them are books that I have purchased recent-ish. But also a lot of them have been on my TBR for many years. All of these, I believe, are standalones. I really did not want to mess with like series or anything like that. We've got long books, we've got short books, we have nonfiction, we've got classics, we've got modern books. So we got a little bit of everything, like I said, in no particular order. So before we hop in, don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. I'm going to be incorporating at least 1 to 2 of these on each of my TBRs over the next 2 years. I have 2 years until I'm 30, which is really crazy to think about. I don't feel old, but maybe I'll feel old in 2 years. Maybe I'll feel old after reading these books. Who knows? So the first book is Robert Louis Stevenson's The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and Other Tales of Terror. So I was more familiar with, I believe they converted this into a play. I was under the impression that it was a play rather than a short story. I'm pretty sure it's not that long. Yeah, it's only about 70 pages, and then the other stories in here include The Body Snatcher, Olala, A Chapter of Dreams, and then Diagnosing Jekyll. So I think that this would just be a very fun book to read either this winter or next spooky season. Next is The Epic of Gilgamesh. This is considered to be one of the greatest surviving poems of all time. It's told through fragmented tablets. So the story tells of Gilgamesh's adventures with the wild man Enkidu and of his arduous journey to the ends of the earth in the quest of the Babylonian Noah and the secret of immortality. In addition to its themes of family, friendship, and the duties of kings, the Epic of Gilgamesh is above all about mankind's eternal struggle with the fear of death. So this, I know, just a lot of people talk about having read it for school or different things, and just one of those foundational texts that I do think that I should know more about. Next is Jean-Jacques Rousseau, The Social Contract. So I did just recently haul this. I've been more interested in philosophy recently, and I definitely just need to start somewhere. I think this short little guy would be a great way to do it. Back a little bit about it. Man was born free and he is everywhere in chains. Those are the famous opening words of The Social Contract. Rousseau argues for a social contract that should exist between all the citizens of a state and that should be the source of sovereign power. Next is The Canterbury Tales. This is a more modern English version. Essentially, it is a story, it's a epic poem, and it is like a storytelling contest between all of these people as they're going on a journey. One overarching story and then little stories within it. So, and it is told in verse, which I think will be very fun, trying to get more into my poetry, as you could probably tell. Next is Women Who Run with the Wolves, Myths and Stories of the Wild Women Archetype by Clarissa Pincola Estes, PhD. I have heard of this book. It's just a lot of short stories about myths and legends of the wild woman. I think that this would be a really foundational text for kind of the good for her genre of book. So like I've read Sacrificial Animals and Night Bitch, both of which are kind of like wild women stories. So I think reading something like this would be really interesting and kind of help my further understanding of these like kind of myths and legends. Next is the autobiography of Malcolm X as told by Alex Healy. So Malcolm X was a civil rights activist. This was published originally in 1964. And it tells about his life and the growth of the Black Muslim movement. His fascinating perspective on the lies and limitations of the American dream and the inherent racism in a society that denies its non-white citizens the opportunity to dream gives extraordinary insight into the most urgent issues of our time. So I really don't know a lot about Malcolm X. He wasn't someone that we learned a ton about when I was in school. And I really don't read a ton of autobiographies, so I'm interested to see how this one is. Next is the Aeneid of Virgil. This is a Trojan War epic poem telling, and it's kind of more of that, I guess we could call it traditional epic poem style, because a lot of epic poems revolve around the Trojan War. It's filled with drama, passion, and the universal pathos that only a masterpiece can express. The Aeneid is a book for all time and all people. I also want to say I didn't know the Aeneid existed until my mom joined a book club and she read part of this for her book clubs. Now I know, and I'm going to read it. Next is 1984 by George Orwell. I don't even think I really need to say a lot about this book. It's about a surveillance government style. It's like a negative utopia sort of thing. I've had this book for years. I actually got this book at a hypnotist show. Illusionist, there we go. He was like an illusionist, and I got called up to do the trick with the book page. And I just have not read it yet, and I don't know why. It's time. By the time I'm 30, I need to read this book. Next, I've actually had this book since I was, I think, in middle school, and I've never read it. There's no reason for me to have not read it. A Night to Remember by Walter Lloyd. This is kind of considered the quintessential sort of fiction on the Titanic. He interviewed over 60 survivors of the tragedy and just kind of gives a minute-by-minute account of everything that went down. I have brought this book with me everywhere I have lived, and yet I have not read it. So by the time I am 30, I need to read this book. My special interest when I was a kid was the Titanic. I knew everything about it. I still have many of the books that I read when I was a kid. Next is The Body Keeps Score, Brain, Mind, and Body in the Healing of Trauma by Bessel van der Kolk, M.D. So this is a nonfiction about how our body reacts to trauma, and it talks about like veterans and their family, sexual trauma, alcoholic trauma, like all these different things. A lot of people say that this is a very difficult book for them to get through, not because it's hard to read, but because it's like mentally hard to like get through, like it's hard on the heart to read, which is why I, have it, but I haven't read it yet. So I'm excited to read this, but I'm also nervy. I'm very nervy to read it. Next is Jesus and John Wayne, How White Evangelicals Corrupted a Faith and Fractured a Nation by Kristen Kobes-Dumez. This has kind of been the quintessential Christian nationalist book that has gone and made its rounds on the internet. I've read other books about Christian nationalism, but I know that I need to read this one. A leading scholar of American Christianity presents a brilliant and engaging 75-year history of white evangelicalism, arguing that the forces that christen Donald Trump an evangelical hero will continue to shape the nation. So just really important things about how our culture has come to be in the state that it is in. Next, The Feminine Mystique by Betty Friedan. So this is kind of I'm trying to think of my feminist waves. I believe it's second wave. It talks primarily, so this was published in 1963, and it talks about kind of the problem with no name. That's kind of where that comes from, with like the bored and idle housewife. Betty Friedan was a woman who wanted women to work outside the home, or have the choice to work outside the home. From a foundational feminist text standpoint, I think this is something that I need to read and intake. And God Was a Woman, the landmark exploration of the ancient worship of the great goddess and the eventual suppression of women's rights by Merlin Stone. This was a book that I found on TikTok, actually, when I still went on TikTok. It talks about matriarchal societies before patriarchy kind of existed. It talks about like the worship of goddesses and how women were so important and integral to these ancient societies, which obviously women are always integral to any society or else they would literally die out, but specifically like predating patriarchy, which is what I'm interested in learning about. Next is Nickel and Dimed on Not Getting By in America by Barbara Ehrenreich. This actually has a foreword by Matthew Desmond, author of Evicted. He also wrote Poverty by America, which I did read this year. Wonderful book, one of the best nonfictions I have ever read. I love it so much. I talk about that book all the time. And so this is about a woman who basically like puts all of her money, from what I understand, she puts all of her money into like a savings account and she can't access it. And she tries to basically build herself up again from the ground up. And she can't. So it says, funny, poignant, and passionate, this revolutionary first-hand account of life in low-wage America, the story of Barbara and Henrich's attempts to eke out a living while working as a waitress, hotel maid, house cleaner, nursing home aide, and Walmart associate has become an essential part of the national discourse. So I think that this would be really interesting. I worked as a Walmart cashier. I worked at a hotel. Like, I think that this will be really interesting to read. Next is a book that I have had probably since middle school. This is Anne Lamott's Bird by Bird, Some Instructions on Writing and Life. I wanted to be a writer so badly when I was younger, and my grandma, I went to like an author signing with my grandma for, I believe it was Meg Cabot, well, I did go to an author signing by Meg Cabot, but I don't know if it was her who recommended this book or another author, because I went to like a small Minnesota-based author thing that was happening at the Apple Valley Library. It's a whole thing. But somebody recommended this book and my grandma went out and bought it for me right away. And I have just never read it, but I've heard wonderful, wonderful things about this. I believe it's Jack Edwards talked about liking this book too. So clearly I've been missing out for the past 20 years that I have had this book. So I need to get on it. And then the last book I have for part 1 of this video is The New Handbook for a Post-Roe America, The Complete Guide to Abortion Legality, Access, and Practical Support by Robin Marty. In 2023, Roe v. Wade was overturned in the United States, and I purchased this book either right before or right after. It says, The New Handbook for a Post-Roe America is a comprehensive and user-friendly manual for understanding and preparing for the looming changes to reproductive rights laws and getting the healthcare you need by any means necessary. Activist and writer Robin Marty guides readers through various worst-case scenarios of a post-Roe America and offers ways to fight back, including how pregnant people are finding financial support, how pregnant people are using existing networks and creating new ones, and how, when required, people are working outside existing legal systems. She details how people are planning for emergencies and organizing efforts, are finding new strength, what to know about self-managed abortion care with pills and/or herbs, and how people are avoiding surveillance. The only guidebook of its kind, New Handbook for a Post-Roe America, includes chapters that cover the needs and tools available for pregnant people across the country. So it's, times are scary right now, and I think I need to read this book now more than ever. And I believe that it has been updated again, so I would have to see. I believe this is the second iteration of it, but I would have to look and see if the new one is all that much different. So that is all I have for part 1 today. Stay tuned for part 2. It will be coming out shortly with 15 more books that I'm going to read before I'm 30. So thank you so much for watching today. Don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe so you don't miss part 2. I'm also going to be doing a lot more crafting content coming up here for like a handmade holiday, which I'm really excited to share with you guys. And yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!